Mark.
Gotcha.
Okay, I'm going to call the meeting to order. It is March 18th, 2025. It is 7 p.m. We are at the Genoa Township Hall, 5111 South Old 3C Highway, Westerville, Ohio 43082. We have 4 agenda items tonight. BZA case 2024-13, which is an area variance, which is the third meeting. A BZA case 2025-02, which is a conditional use permit at 7380 Red Bank Road, which is the first meeting. BZA case 2025-03, which is an area variance at 6387 Lake Trail Drive, also the first meeting. And then we have an area variance at 5759 Ridgewood Avenue, which is also the first meeting. And then we have a little bit of housekeeping to do at the end. Staff present is Joe Schaefer, Director of Zoning, Development and Zoning, Paul Benson, and I am going to screw this up, I promise, for at least a year. Go ahead, Joe. Rafiq Uden. Got it. Okay, I'll call the roll. Miss Yu. Here. Mr. Phillips.
Here.
Mr. Campanella. Here. Mr. Christian.
Here.
And Bob DeRose is absent. I want to read this in the record before we go any farther. As is the adopted policy of the Board of Zoning Appeals, all applicants will be granted an opportunity to make their formal presentation. The audience will then be granted an opportunity to comment, followed by questions from the board. This policy was adopted by the Board of Zoning Appeals to provide for the orderly discussion of business scheduled for consideration. The chairperson, me, may limit repetitive debate. The first item on the agenda is review and approval of the minutes of January 28, 2025. And do we have those here?
I did, yeah.
Okay. Go ahead and take a minute and review them, and then I will entertain a motion to approve. And, okay. And then, there was something in here that. Oh, okay. I'm going to ask this, Paul Benson. I'm sure you're going to be right, but I'm going to ask anyway, because I don't recall asking staff if there were any updates to the zoning resolution amendment that was being heard by the zoning commission. Now,
So
I'm not going to say it didn't happen.
when you came back from private deliberations,
Okay.
Mr. Griggs said, do you want to ask if there's any updates to the zoning resolution? And so you said, yes, I'm going to ask if there's any updates to the zoning resolution. So it did get discussed.
Okay. All right. That makes sense. Okay. Otherwise, I'm good to go.
Move to accept.
Mr. Christian moves to accept the minutes
Second.
as presented, and second by Mr. Phillips. Okay, all in favor? Oh, any discussion? Any amendments? Any corrections? Okay. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, any abstentions? Okay, motion carries, and the minutes are adopted. Okay. At this time, we will open the hearing for the area variance that had been continued, and I will read the legal notice into the record, and then I'll swear everyone in that wishes to appear on this. Thomas Shea and Lenore C. Button requesting approval of a variance to allow for an existing accessory structure, which is a fireplace, to remain within the required 10-foot side yard setback at 5865 Ridgewood Avenue, Westerville, Ohio 43082. Lot 2918 in the Highland Lakes North subdivision, which is currently zoned planned residential, PRD. This is BZA case 2024-13, continued from January 28th, 2025. Those that wish to speak on this matter, please, excuse me, stand and raise your right hand. Okay. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Be seated. We will include in evidence, are these new, oh, I see, revised drawings, and has the staff report been revised also?
Yes, Exhibit D.
Okay. Oh, dated March 11th. Okay, I guess I should have read that. Those will be Exhibit D and E. And Mr. Schaefer, if you will give us the staff report.
Certainly. So I'm not going to give the full report because, as you know, this is a continued hearing from November of last year. If you recall, and this project has somewhat evolved since the legal description was originally written. So the proposals actually involves there was an existing chimney structure on the site, and then the proposal involves constructing an accessory building adjacent to that existing chimney on the site. This matter was continued, however, due to some ongoing issues and discussions the applicant was having with their HOA. And then also they needed to make a decision whether or not, provide you clarification, whether or not the accessory building they were going to build was next to the chimney or actually physically attached to the chimney.
I think that was the central.
That was the central
Yeah.
item. So we do have an update on that, and they have communicated. So now they've modified the variance request to be from Article 16, Section 1609.01B, which stipulates that side and rear yard setback for accessory buildings shall be 10 feet. When the required side yard setback is less than 10 feet, the accessory may be located at the reduced setback. So they are going to attach the accessory building to the chimney. So the variance request is no longer for the chimney structure in and of itself. It's for the entirety of the accessory building, which would include the existing chimney.
Right.
So the entirety of the structure, including the chimney, is still encroaching on that side yard setback, hence why we're still here in front of you this evening for the variance. Like I said, I'm not going to go through the entirety of the memo that was already entered into the record. As I noted here in the staff comments, you can see the applicant has amended the plan and will now attach the fireplace to the accessory building. I've already noted the code section we're now seeking the variance from. Staff note, if this application is denied, the existing fireplace encroachment in the side yard setback would still remain and be a zoning violation and would have to be dealt with separately by the applicant. Also, revised staff note, if the variance request is approved this evening, staff would suggest that the motion clearly state that the variance approval only applies to the accessory building shown in this application. So that way, they couldn't come back with like another accessory building or a building addition and say, oh, well,
Yeah.
that variance applies to this. So, but if that's how you want it to be enforced, that needs to be codified as part of the motion.
Okay.
And then just some notes regarding the HOA. There's been a lot of discussion about the HOA over the years, and I thought this was an opportune time to sort of, as a reminder, just discuss this topic briefly. Staff generally recommends that the BZA not wait for an HOA, an applicant to resolve matters prior to rendering a decision on a request, as that's really a private matter between the homeowner and a third party. Though the board may obviously consider the position and testimony of the HOA during a hearing, just like they can of anyone else, it's important to remember that the HOA review and of approval is still a separate process that occurs outside of zoning and is not explicitly listed as a prerequisite for approval in the Duncan Middlefield standards established by the court system. Staff has previously been legally advised, we treat the zoning permits the same way. Like there are times where we know the HOA is not going to approve something, but if they've submitted an application and it's compliant, we issue it. And sometimes we'll note, hey, you might want to talk to your HOA about this.
And I think I explained to the applicant at the last meeting that they were here, that it was for informational purposes only.
Correct.
Really,
Yep.
for us to,
Yep.
it's not a fact, it is not the deciding factor.
Correct. I mean, HOA support certainly never probably hurts an application in most situations, but it can, and if the HOA raises a valid concern, gives testimony and raises a valid concern, the BZA feels like they need to take into their own consideration, then obviously.
Absolutely. And that has, actually,
And that's
it's
happened.
happened both
Yep.
ways.
So, and the reason I primarily say that, other than the fact they are two separate processes, we have encountered some HOAs that will basically defer and want to wait to see what the township does.
Yes.
And sometimes you'll get, in past, we've had, well, the BZA doesn't want to jump till the HOA jumps, but the HOA is waiting for the BZA, and the applicant's sort of sitting there with their hands up in the air, being like, well, someone's got to go first.
Right.
So it puts them in an awkward, sort of precarious position, and I go into more detail in the memo, but I won't read it verbatim, what the concerns are there, but that's essentially the issue. I wouldn't want the BZA to be in a precarious position, or the applicant to be in a precarious position, or the BZA to inherit some sort of liability
Absolutely.
on that. On that front.
And I want to note also that we were also sent a copy of an email, which I'm not sure of the context or when it actually happened, where the HOA actually, they turned down the request. But I can't tell what the context was on that, if it was recent, if it was older, because the chimney's been there for quite a while.
I'm sure the applicant can testify to their
Yeah,
communications
okay,
with the
all right.
HOA. So
So go ahead, Joe.
that's the conclusion of my report. So unless you have any questions for me, I'll turn the floor back over to you, Mr. Chairman.
Anybody? No questions. No? I can call Mark and then everybody will answer. Okay, let's hear from the applicant. If you'd introduce yourself, and are you either one the property owner or?
I
you're
am
the-
Tom
Ah,
Button. I'm the
okay,
property owner.
and then you're the builder? Yes. Okay, go ahead, why don't you go ahead and present the application?
So the application includes building of a freestanding structure, accessory structure, over top of an existing concrete patio, which would attach to a fireplace that is also on the property. In order to make the fireplace draw appropriately, we are proposing to raise that chimney up above the roof line by about 3 feet above where the intersection point is. We'll match that chimney with the existing structure that's currently there. Through this process of design and development, as we submitted applications to Genoa for zoning, we realized that that existing fireplace structure was positioned within the setback, the side yard setback of that property. And upon further investigation, it was found that the original application had the fireplace located in a different position. And my understanding is throughout the building process, it got relocated and decided that it was better suited to be where it ultimately ended up. And
Do you know how long it's been there?
2016.
Oh, okay, 2016. Were you the owner of the property, Mr. Button? Were you?
Yes.
Okay.
The new structure, as I mentioned, is a freestanding structure, so it'll be classified as an accessory, will be attached to that existing fireplace. It's a really cool, unique structure that I think is gonna add a lot of livability to that backyard. You can imagine the big trees that are in this beautiful area. This complements that a lot, and I think it'll help with their ability to create a circulate air to help with bugs. We'll give them a covered structure to be able to enjoy that space throughout the seasons in inclement weather, and ideally give them more opportunity to be able to enjoy that fireplace, which they certainly do already, including, I think it's worth noting, with their adjacent neighbors that are on that property line who we have reached out to, and then they kind of, for what it's worth, have given their blessing and stamp of approval that they would love to see that fireplace remain and this structure built so that they can continue to enjoy it with their lovely neighbors, the Buttons. Somewhat unrelated, but I think it's worth noting that this would be the third project that my business has worked with Tom and Leonore on, neither of which were the patio or fireplace, but the first being a small kitchen remodel and a bathroom remodel, both within the existing footprint of the home. And through my experience working with Tom and Leonore, you know, their goal has always been to do everything above board. So I confidently can say that they would, you know, my personal opinion anyway, is that they would not have, you know, intentionally tried to deceive the township or done anything inappropriate with any foul intentions. I truly believe this was an honest mistake that probably happened in the heat of the moment. I can already kind of vision a contractor sitting there and being like, this is a good location, but could you imagine if it was here, you wouldn't ruin your view to the backyard. And in which case, I've been part of many of those. Sometimes you do make some on-the-fly changes and not necessarily understanding the potential repercussions of that. So again, this is just my personal opinion, but I do believe that this was an honest mistake. And from the very beginning, when we discussed kind of options, when we just figured out that this was potentially an issue, Tom and Leonor's goal was to go about this above board, face it head on, and deal with it the right way, which is why we're sitting here in front of you. And so throughout that, we appreciate your guys' consideration.
And a contractor, I assume, built the fireplace. You had a different contractor build it and locate the fireplace? Okay.
I have a question, Mr. Chairman.
Go.
I apologize, I wasn't here for the original November meeting, so I'm a little bit green on this. So it sounds to me like you discovered a pre-existing violation as part of doing this project. So you're asking for relief for that as well as relief for the new thing that's happening, correct?
Correct.
Okay. and-
So, I'm sorry, our understanding was that the way that we were supposed to submit this application was that building this new structure, taking into account the existing fireplace because they're connected, we're asking for permission to grant a variance for both this new structure and the fireplace together.
And the issue is a side setback
Yes, sir.
issue. What's the extent of the violation, just so I understand?
Sure, so when we reviewed this, the accessory building itself, the newly constructed accessory building, is actually compliant with the side yard setback. It's the fact that it's being attached to the existing chimney, which was built within the setback, that now renders the whole thing non-compliant. So the chimney was built in a non-compliant location, then also, I think there was an issue with its height too, correct?
Yes, they wanted to extend the height. If they extended the height, then they would have had to get a variance for the height also.
Because it was a structure and not a building.
Yeah, but once they make it a building by attaching it to the pavilion that they're proposing, then the height limit is 22 feet instead of 12 feet, and so the chimney can be the 19 feet that they're hoping for.
So in an
And that
ironic
was
sort of way,
the-
attaching the building to it,
And that was
there's
the
still a
issue
problem
at
that
the
has to be
last
dealt with, but
meeting.
it does fix a problem for them
Okay.
too.
I appreciate you going over that for my sake. Good, and you said about your neighbors being supportive. They didn't send any signatures or any letters, did they?
They did send a letter.
They
actually.
did.
Yes, it was in the original package.
Yeah, I think there was, actually.
Okay, that's helpful. I have no further questions, Mr. Chairman.
But yeah, what is the encroachment? I didn't see it.
Yeah, that's, well, actually, I'll let the applicant answer. I think it's 3 feet 9
around
inches,
three.
but I'll let the
Yeah, it's
applicant.
around 3.
3.9 feet? Is that what I saw?
Is that what that is?
It was between 25 and 50% of the way into the variance, which I think ended up being a little less than 3 feet, if I recall correctly.
We have it as 3 feet 9 inches.
Thank you.
So, unless that number needs to be changed by the applicant, that's what we're assuming is the correct figure that was provided to us.
And just for the board's
Yeah, too many lines.
edification, for those that weren't here, Mark, is that we do have a letter of support from the Yocums, which are your immediate neighbors?
Yes,
Yeah.
immediately to the west.
Okay, that's what I thought.
One of the other thing mentioned in the application, which you guys probably have, is that there is a rule about being 20 feet away from that existing house in between. And even with this encroachment into the side yard, that 20-foot there is more than 20 feet there. So the only violation there would be the encroachment into the side yard.
Is there anything specific about the fireplace location that's code relative to fire safety involved in this, or is it just location and encroachment on side setbacks?
From our perspective, it's just the zoning encroachment on the side yard setback. Any fire code, building code implications would be up to them to deal with those agencies.
And police and fire had no objection to it, correct?
Police and fire did not respond, or no, Fire Marshal Cato did respond and had no objections.
Oh, great.
Okay. Joe, I guess my question would be, if there were no fireplace, I realize it's there, but in my imaginary world, if there were no fireplace The proposed accessory building would be acceptable, would not need a variance.
I believe so, because I believe the intention was to build the building right up to the 10-foot setback line.
Okay.
And I don't
It
think,
looks like that on the drawing.
well, yeah, because they drew it with the accessory building being compliant with the setback, not knowing that the existing chimney was an issue. And to their credit, you know, as soon as they found out, they were very responsive and understanding that they needed to get this dealt with.
Okay.
Okay. Oh, any public comments? Anyone from the public that's been sworn in wish to make a comment regarding the application? Okay, hearing none, we will close public comment. And, okay. I guess we'll go into discussion and finding of fact. So, not everybody at once.
You want me to
Sure.
take the lead?
Absolutely.
That's what you were waiting for.
We got enough, everyone gets a chance today.
Everyone
Yeah,
gets a
not
chance.
everybody at once, come on.
All right. The board reviewed section 307.06 of the zoning, am I doing the right one here? I think so. Yeah, okay. Of the zoning resolution reflecting Duncan versus Middlefield, as it pertains to the area variance requested from section 1609.01B to allow for an accessory building, an existing fireplace encroachment into the 10-foot side setback, and a planned residential, which is PRD zoning district, as follows. The property in question would yield a reasonable return, and there can be beneficial use of the property without the variance. Our response to that would be that if we don't grant the variance, they could still use the property, still use the home, it's still livable. It doesn't create a situation where the residents couldn't continue to reside in the property. Comments? Second, the variance is substantial. By my rough calculations, 3 feet 9 inches into a 10-foot setback is approximately 39%.
So it would be
In my
suspicious.
view, I would say that's substantial.
Yes.
Number 3, the essential character of the neighborhood would not be substantially altered, and the adjoining properties would not suffer a substantial detriment as a result of the variance. The point being there, the fireplace has been there for 7, 8, almost 9 years, sure. So the neighborhood would not be substantially altered in that the neighbors already know it. And were the proposed accessory building built without the fireplace, it would be compliant. So in my opinion, the neighborhood would be substantially altered, but the adjoining properties would not suffer a substantial detriment as a result of the variance. Building's in compliance without the fireplace has been there for approximately 9 years, so I would suggest that that does not create substantial detriment to the neighbor. Next point, the variance would not adversely affect the delivery of governmental services. We've heard that police and fire don't have objections, and the fire marshal, in fact, did respond with no objections. Next, the property owner did purchase the property with knowledge of the zoning restriction. Mr. Button, as you know, you're charged with knowledge of the zoning restrictions when you buy property, whether you actually know about it or not. You are deemed to know about it. F, the property owner's predicament cannot be feasibly obviated through a method other than the variance. They can either remove the chimney if we don't grant the variance, which completely goes contrary to the property owner's intent. And certainly if they chose not to build the proposed accessory building, we'd still have to view the chimney, I would understand, for a variance tonight if you said you didn't want it. But then if it's non-compliant, then you'd have to remove the chimney too. Last, the spirit and intent behind the zoning requirement, this is a difficult one for me. Would be observed and substantial justice would be done by granting the variance. My conclusion is that the fireplace has been there for 9 years and neighbors haven't complained about it. We do have at least one neighbor who is supporting you in the variance. And
And the alternative is removal.
the only alternative is removal, and construction of the proposed accessory building would not require a
Well,
variance at this
right.
time. But
And I'm not a builder, but I think if you were to make that chimney compliant, then it interferes with the main structure of the house. But also, it probably doesn't have the airflow that it needs, because it's gonna be blocked by the house. That's my opinion as a layman, but that would be a consideration as well, I think. So,
Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll move forward with a motion. I move to approve and incorporate Exhibits A through E, I believe, as well as the board's findings pertaining to the review of Section 307.06 of the Genoa Township zoning resolution into evidence, and to approve the requested variance from Section 1309.01B of the Genoa Township zoning resolution for BZA case number 2024-13. Application received October 16, 2024, to allow for an accessory building to attach to an existing outdoor fireplace that encroaches 3.9 inches into the left side setback on property known as Lot 2918 in Highland Lakes North, property address 5865 Ridgewood Avenue, Westerville, Ohio 43082, zoned Planned Residential District, PRD.
And I'm sorry, if I may interrupt, we had a
Yes.
typo in the script. That section should be 160901B. I apologize.
oh,
Should be, I'm sorry, 1609, you're right, 1609. 1609. So motion modified to the extent that we've corrected the reference, instead of 1309.01B to 1609.01B. Motion is based on the following findings of fact pursuant to Section 307.04 of the Genoa Township zoning resolution, that such variance or modification will not be contrary to the public interest because, once again, to repeat that the fireplace has been there for 9 years with no complaints, as far as we know, about its existence into the area that should have had a variance. And the new building is compliant were it but for the chimney. So in my mind, it's not contrary to the public interest. Comments? That owning to special conditions, a literal enforcement of the zoning resolution will result in an unnecessary hardship because it would require removal of the chimney. And that's certainly one of the key elements in the applicant's request for the variances, to have the chimney remain. So I believe the literal enforcement of the zoning resolution would result in unnecessary hardship. Number 3, that the approval of such variance or modification thereof is consistent with the spirit of the zoning resolution, and substantial justice shall be done thereby, because by granting the variance, we're going to permit the applicant to build the structure next to the chimney, making modifications to the chimney of approximately an additional 9 feet in height. Is that right?
yes.
Okay, all right. So it would do substantial justice by allowing the applicant to build the building and continue to use the fireplace as modified. Approval of subject variance is subject to the owner's agreement to the following conditions. 1, all required permits, zoning or otherwise, be obtained. Number 2, pursuant to Section 307.11 of the Genoa Township zoning resolution, the approved variance shall lapse, expire, and be null and void ab initio at the beginning if required zoning permits are not obtained within 1 year of this motion of approval. Number 3, extensions to the variance may be requested pursuant to sections 307, 11A and B of the Genoa Township zoning resolution as may be amended. Number 4, the Board of Zoning Appeals does grant the Genoa Township zoning inspector authority to extend this variance at their discretion, subject to the deadlines established with section 30711A of the Genoa Township resolution as may be amended.
Second.
Okay, I wasn't ignoring you, I was trying to get into the PDF, my PDF document, because I think it's important that we recognize that the HOA has turned down the application for this project, which we all know doesn't really have any bearing on this hearing and this application for us. But I think if for me, a careful read of the HOA's email that explains why they declined the application with them was more procedural than it was based on aesthetics, or it doesn't meet their guidelines, or it was that, the way I read it anyway, it was that he hadn't complied with whatever application requirements they had. That's my understanding. And like I said, I think it's important to note, because it's not a determining factor what the HOA did, but it's a consideration. So we're taking it into consideration. We're not saying, well, tough. But I think it's important to know that I don't think that, my opinion is that the HOA really, it was a stretch to decline the application with you. Now, where it goes from there, I don't know. So,
I did second the motion, but did we want to add the condition that the variance applies only to?
I certainly would.
Yeah, I jumped it.
I would revise the motion to include staff's comments that it only applies, that the variance applies only to this structure as it is proposed to be constructed, and no additional structures that would encroach into the easement. Is that accurate, Joe?
Yeah, so if that's the amended you wish, since Mr. Phillips made the motion, I recommend that he sign off on that
Yeah,
amendment.
you made a motion to
Yes.
modify or amend.
Yes.
I second that.
Okay,
Mhm.
all right. All right, anything else? Go ahead, Mark.
To follow up on your comment, Mark, I would note that Mr. Schaefer entered into the record earlier today that we are not bound by a homeowners association position, nor are they bound by ours. We often defer to them. It's been my experience in some 10 years on the board that we will certainly entertain whatever their positions are. We do give it credence, which you just did, Mark, by acknowledging it.
Right,
but-
we take it into some consideration.
Right.
But
But again, as Mr. Schaefer said, we're an independent board and we should act
absolutely, yep.
upon the facts before us.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Okay, anything else, gentlemen? No? Guess I'll call the roll then. Mr. Campanella?
I vote to approve.
Okay. Mr. Christian?
Yes.
Mr. Phillips?
Yes.
Ms. Yu?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. The motion is carried. So, thank you very much, and hearings
Enjoy your patio.
closed at 7:35.
Good luck with the rest of the project.
Yeah. Yeah, let me switch gears here real quick. This is. Oh, this is the garage expansion, okay.
Well, no, the next is the conditional use. Oh,
Next hearing, under request for continuance, like, so we need to open
Oh, this one is, this
The
one.
conditional use requested continuance, so we need to open that hearing and then
Oh, okay.
proceed.
For some reason,
staff report for that one in front of you.
Oh, okay.
So it's not this one.
Okey dokey. So this one, it's the one on Red Bank that's continued. Oh, for some reason I thought it was the other Ridgewood. Okay, I will open the hearing at this time for the conditional use permit. And I will swear those in that wish to appear on this matter. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Thanks. Okay, Dmitry, you're gonna really challenge me. Karavayev, I'm sure it's nowhere close. And Jim P. requesting approval of a conditional use to construct an accessory building at 7380 Red Bank Road, Westerville, Ohio, 43082, currently zoned rural residential, and that's RR, BZA case 2025-02. The legal notice for this hearing has been printed and published on March 1st, 2025 in the Delaware Gazette and posted at the Genoa Township Hall on February 21st, 2025. An attempt to mail notice of this hearing to property owners contiguous to and across the street from the subject property was also made. Now, I've been advised that the applicant has requested a continuance of the hearing by email dated March 11th, 2025. So at this time, I will move to continue the public hearing for the subject application known as 7380 Red Bank Road, BZA case 2025-02, until April 22nd, 2025 at 7 p.m. in the Genoa Township Hall. Additional or revised materials will be due to the Genoa Township Development and Zoning Department by March 25th, 2025 at 4 p.m. And I'll entertain a second.
Second the motion.
Okay, by Mr. Phillips. Any discussion? No?
I would ask
Oh,
the
go ahead.
applicants, is that enough time? Oh, you're not the applicant? Okay. Did they have any indication that they needed more time? or-
I did, when they sent, or the issue is they have some other problems on the property that they need to work out with the zoning department. And so I suggested to them that they should probably continue or withdraw while we figure out those issues. And then I gave them the dates of the next two meetings, and they said we should be able to have it done by the April 22nd meeting. So that's their plan.
So this is probably one where we're gonna take it on a month-by-month basis to see how things are progressing.
That's fine.
It's possible that they could have it all cleaned up within a month, but I also could easily see this taking more than a month for them to clean up. So
I don't have a
we
lot-
could see them next month, but you could also see another
I
continuance
don't
next
have a
month,
lot
so.
planned this summer, so I'm good.
How many continuances can an applicant get? Is there a limit? I
As
don't-
many as the board feels fit and appropriate to do
I
so.
think
Okay.
I recall, maybe we've had 3, but I think you get to a point where maybe they want to withdraw and reapply.
Yeah, in the past, the board has eventually sort of given the applicant the impression that it's time to either fix it or, withdraw.
And see
Well,
ya.
they could withdraw at this point, but they withdraw, they just wouldn't get a refund for their application
Oh,
fee. Because
okay.
once
Right.
the hearing is open, the opportunity to get your $600 back, that door closes.
Of course, they
So-
can request a continuance for 90 days.
Correct, if they came back
It
the
doesn't
next
have to
meeting
be
and said,
just
we need
30.
90 days,
Yeah,
they could
which-
do that.
Typically, I don't know, you've been here as long as I have, typically, 90 days is about the number, but
Right.
I'm not gonna tell them what to do. If they like 30 days, then I like 30 days. So I was planning on being here anyway.
We'll
So-
continue to work with them on trying to resolve those
Yeah,
issues.
if it looks like it's gonna, rather than go in 30-day increments, my suggestion would be is maybe go out 60 or 90 days to make sure they absolutely have enough time, rather than us opening and continuing again.
Okay, if that conversation comes up and they mention another continuance, we'll convey that sentiment. to them.
Yeah, I mean, they can do whatever they want, though. Like I
Yep.
said, I planned on being here next month, the month after, and the month after, so.
I won't
Understood.
be here for the January meeting, so.
Good to know.
Can I ask a quick question about that? Will that information, the continuance, be noted, like, posted on the website, or how will we know as?
So, Mr. Chairman, do you want me to
Yeah,
respond
go
to the
ahead, Joe,
question?
if you don't mind.
So, being here tonight will be official public notice that the hearing was continued on the record. We will, as staff, post a sign on the property again. That's just our standard practice. But for the record, if this motion passes, that'll be the official notice to the public. So we won't send out mailers, there won't be another newspaper ad. The website will be updated, though, to that effect as well.
And you can always call in, too. I guess.
Correct, you can always call staff and just ask what the status is on any given application.
Okay. Okey-doke. Anything else?
We should check before April 22nd to make sure that this is going to be on the agenda for tonight. Okay.
Yeah, just know,
Go ahead.
do you mind, Mr. Chairman?
Yeah.
Just know that sometimes applicants withdraw very late into the day. So even if you call me at 4, I'll give you the most up-to-date information I have at 4 o'clock. But if they withdraw at 4:30 or 5, or literally right before the meeting, you know, there's just no way I
Yeah,
can
we have
communicate that
had
in advance.
In the past. Not very often, but we have had it.
Can I ask why you're here? Are they?
I probably refrain from doing that. Those are procedural questions,
Okay.
but that would be testimony.
Yeah, that and potentially public comment, so, which I didn't intend to take.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question.
Sure.
Are the details regarding this particular request, is there a package for this? That-
I,
Not here?
don't believe
I
there
wanted to make
is.
sure, because I feel like I'm operating blind on this one.
We purposely didn't put out the stuff or get a memo since they asked for the continuance. We didn't want to,
yeah, and that's normal.
that's
All
our
right.
standard.
Yeah, I
Once they're ready to move forward, though, you'll absolutely get on. it.
I know, I just wanted to make sure I wasn't
Yep.
missing something.
No, you didn't miss anything.
Okay.
Call a vote?
Call a vote. Yes, sir. Mr. Campanella,
I agree with the continuance.
Mr. Christian,
Yes.
Mr. Phillips?
Yes.
Miss Yu?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes, so the motion to continue is carried. And the hearing is closed at 7:43. Okay, the next one. I will call the meeting to order at 7:44 PM and read the legal notice into the record. Before I do that, let's swear all those in that wish to appear on this case. So if you could stand and raise your right hand. Thank you. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Thanks. Be seated. Jacob and Rebecca Haas requesting approval of a variance to construct an addition that encroaches into the rear setback at 9387 Lake Trail Drive, Westerville, Ohio, 43082, currently zoned planned residential, PRD. This is BZA case 2025-03. The legal notice for this hearing was printed and published on March 1st, 2025 in the Delaware Gazette and posted at the Genoa Township Hall on February 21st, 2025. An attempt to mail notice of this hearing to property owners contiguous to and across the street from the subject property was also made. We are going to accept the following exhibits, A through D, which is the legal notice, the sign-in sheet, the application, and the staff report dated March 11th, 2025. And we will hear from Mr. Schaefer now.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So this is an application for 6387 Lake Trail Drive. This is the first time you're hearing this one. If this address sounds familiar, that's because it is. They did apply for the January meeting, and then shortly before that meeting, withdrew to deal with a few things, and then decided to reapply a modified application for you this evening. So here in front of you, the history, you know what, I'm not going to read through the entirety of the history. It's all the memo in the public record. Highland Lakes obviously has been there since the 90s.
Right.
The zoning permit for the house was issued in 92. You can see several other permits over the years have been issued. Basically, the applicant is looking for a variance to section 80607 of the resolution, which is a minimum rear yard setback depth of 50 feet. They're proposing a garage addition to their home with a 40-foot setback, so a 10-foot encroachment into the rear yard setback. The applicant went through and answered all the Duncan Midfield questions with no, and obviously will be able to provide supporting testimony to you this evening. As part of the submission, the applicant did, however, include pictures and a site plan drawing, site plan rather, showing the proposed construction, which again, they I imagine will be able to speak to and testify about. Staff comments, the existing third-car garage and deck appear to comply with the required 50-foot yard setback. A rear yard setback measurement was not provided on the application for zoning permit number 97-139, which is why we made that statement. However, that was 27 years ago now, If the variance request is approved, staff would suggest that the motion clearly state that the reduced setback only applies to the construction of the third-car garage. Renovations as shown as the site plan submitted as part of this application, and no additional encroachments, including any future additions, are allowed unless another variance is so requested and granted. As stated in my email from the 24th to Mr. Haas, staff is unclear if the numbers used to calculate building impervious and surface coverages percentages on the originally submitted zoning permit application that we had received for this project were accurate. A clarification of the square footage numbers used to show compliance with the maximum lot coverage percentages will need to be provided to the township zoning staff for verification that the proposed construction does not exceed the maximum 20% building coverage and 35% impervious surface coverage for lot zone suburban residential. This info must be received before the zoning permit would be issued. Another staff note, the application for permit 2025-031 provided updated lot coverage calculations that we had been seeking. The applicant has approximately 395 square feet of building that may be permitted before any more building coverage would require a variance. Staff recommends that the Board of Zoning Appeals, again, this is sort of the commentary regarding the HOA, so I'm not going to read through it all. I think we're all pretty well versed in how to handle the HOA issue. It's there entered into the record of staff's opinion, which has not changed since the hearing we just had earlier this evening. A copy of the applicant's variance application was provided to the police, fire, and maintenance departments. The fire marshal responded and had no comments or concerns. Police and maintenance did not provide any responses. And Mr. Chairman's already noted the legal notice advertisement dates, so I won't rehash those. And we did put a notification sign on the property on March 5th. And I'm not aware of us having received any public comment or inquiry in advance of the hearing, correct, Mr. Benson? Nope. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I know I kept it very high level, but that's what I'm going to be trying to do with these reports going forward, so I'll turn the floor back over to you.
Okay. Any questions for staff? Anyone? Okay. Let's hear from the applicant. If you'd introduce yourself, and is one of you the homeowner or no? You're the homeowner, okay.
Press this, or?
As long as it's green.
Yeah, is it green? You need to press it. There you go.
I'm the homeowner and Jim's the architect.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, the garage now is too small. You can't even get a car in unless it's a smart car or something like that, or a motorcycle. It's pretty small. So that's why we want to increase it. We'll go wider and deeper. So you can use it.
Okay, do we have a?
So a couple other things. The lots behind us are, one's a 3-acre lot and one's a 5-acre lot that are right, so they're not part of Highland Lakes. It's kind of like that carve-out street. So it's very, I can't see the neighbors' houses. So if you're moving it, I think it's 12 feet back. So we're asking for 10-foot variance. Is that roughly what it is? So I included some pictures just to kind of give you a flavor. I don't know if that's up there or not, but
Yeah. That's what I was.
and then as far as
That's the best view of those neighbors that are there at the rear. Oh, no, that's
What are the,
Pulling up on the TVs, just the auditor's website.
right,
If you want to see the distance. Rafiq, can you just pull back a little bit so they can see like the distance between those homes and the ones to the south?
yeah.
There you go. It's a little tricky. And then, oh yeah, make that window go away. Highlighted in
Oh, I
yellow is
see.
the subject property.
Yeah, it's even more the fact that you can't see anything.
And then finally, the building to the, if you look, I'm looking at it to the right. If if you were zooming in there, they have a gazebo that's quite a far back, so.
Right.
As far as it fitting in with the neighborhood, it's really just a mulch bed right now.
Will yours come like in this area? Is that where it would?
Correct, but not that far back, correct, but yeah, it's about 12 feet. I also took some pictures just to kind of give you a flavor with the stake that should be included, just to kind of give you a flavor of what it would look like.
Right, you're just looking to extend the garage, you're not widening the
It's,
garage.
it's widening it, but the width is within the variance. It's
Okay,
the back extension that falls into the setback. It's actually, it's not a total new garage, it's an expansion of a current garage.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Do you know the dimensions of the existing garage? And they may be here and I just don't see them. Or they're so small.
I do have that, because I have the drawings here.
Oh, good.
But I think I actually wrote it down in this, when I was trying to answer Joe's question about, are we still within below 20 feet? The current garage is 266 square feet. And we're adding another 286 square feet to it.
Do you know does it show the dimensions on there?
The existing garage, excuse me, is 14 feet wide and 17 feet deep.
Oh, okay. And that's not the main garage associated with the house, it's an accessory, or it's an additional
It's an
garage?
attached garage,
Yeah.
but there's the two-car garage you turn into, and then this
Yep.
is the one you come straight into.
Yeah, okay, all right. And they built it that small, huh? Yeah.
Must be for motorcycles.
Yeah,
Yeah.
golf cart and motorcycle.
Yeah.
Miata, I don't know, all my race stuff, I don't know. Okay. And you wanna, and you're gonna go back and over, and you're gonna go back how many feet?
Back 31 total. The whole garage will go back 31 total instead of
31?
It goes 12 feet past his house.
Oh, so you're gonna go back an additional 12 feet?
Yeah.
Okay, and then to the side, an
4 feet,
additional,
4 foot
what?
wider.
I'm sorry?
4 foot wider.
Oh, 4 foot wider, okay.
so 12 feet into the 50 feet.
No, it's only
No.
gonna be 10 feet into the 50 feet.
Got it.
So the 4 feet on the side,
It's a non-issue.
okay.
Yeah, the only
It's already
reason we're
compliant.
here tonight is just that encroachment into the rear setback. The side setback, as proposed to us, is fine.
Can we see the neighborhood again, please? Yeah,
Yeah,
just want to see what else other than this.
I'm gonna go stand to your right here, Mark, because I like sitting in the middle, but that's the good news, the bad news
Is
is
this
I can't
house,
see the
well,
lines.
it almost looks like if you had the 10 feet here, that house. And I don't think this is going to go back more than that is, so, okay.
Well, that's just, is that
This is-
non-covered patio?
Mr. Hosbridge, is this the?
Yes.
The additional garage?
Correct, that'll be where we're expanding it 12 feet back.
Expanding
Yep,
Basically, here,
right,
okay.
yep.
Pretty sure that may be a patio.
Yeah, I think it is.
Okay.
It looks like it is.
We have a screened-in porch on the house on the left.
Screened in
Yeah.
garage?
Yeah. We're not gonna rat him out.
So, you don't,
And then the house to the right, you see, has that gazebo
oh, I see.
fireplace.
Okay. Did we hear from any of the neighbors? Yeah. I didn't
Not to
see-
my
I don't
knowledge.
remember seeing anything.
Okay.
Okay, well, I'm gonna ask the question. Does anybody have any other questions? No? Okay, then any members of the public wish to comment on this application? Okay, hearing none, we will close public comment. And we can go into discussion. So,
I just offer, from my perspective, the additional 10 feet, well, it's taking 10 feet off of a 50-foot setback. There doesn't appear to be any persons being harmed by it. The neighbors behind are substantially far away, and it's shielded by foliage. And the neighbor next door already has objects in his backyard
right,
that already encroach into that area, though they're for a different purpose. The only objection I would imagine is if someone was looking out their window and that'd be looking at a garage now instead of not, and without any complaints, we don't have any reason to believe that there are concerns about that.
right.
So-
And that's actually a good point, Mark, is does it change the essential character of the neighborhood? And I don't think it does. That's always been a really important factor for me.
I mean, if I lived in that house next door and I, got a lot of nice light and the garage now would be, knocking that light away, I'd be concerned, but, if without any testimony one way or the other,
I was gonna say,
Yeah.
probably what I would tell you as a board member, I'd say, well, then you should be standing right there.
yeah,
And there is no one there.
Okay.
So, we can't suppose, public comment, good or bad.
yeah, agreed.
And if it was that egregious, would assume that somebody would say something. I know I would.
Yeah,
So Paul Benson knows that I have. So, anyone want to go through Duncan versus Middlefield?
Okay.
Anybody at all?
Yep, I'll take this one.
Oh, thank you, Teresa.
All right, the board reviewed section 307.06 of the zoning resolution reflecting Duncan versus Middlefield as it pertains to the area variance requested from section 806.07 to allow for an addition to encroach into the rear setback in a suburban residential zoning district as follows. The property in question would yield a reasonable return, and there can be beneficial use of the property without the variance. They still have a garage. It's just not the ideal size. The variance, well, it's 20%. We agree that 25% is substantial.
Correct.
All right, so it is not substantial at 20%, 10 feet into the 50-foot setback. The essential character of the neighborhood would not be substantially altered, and the adjoining properties would not suffer a substantial detriment as a result of the variance, because the neighbor on one side has a gazebo in their rear yard, the other neighbor appears to have a screened porch, and none of the neighbors have shown up to indicate that they are against this. The variance would not adversely affect the delivery of governmental services. Based on their review, I assume they had no comments in fire and police. The property owner did purchase the property with knowledge of the zoning restriction as they existed the time the house was built. The property owner's predicament cannot be feasibly obviated through a method other than the variance, as that's really the only place to expand the garage is in that
Right.
location.
Well, yeah, the
well-
alternative is A, not to do anything. B, it's to remove it and rebuild a larger one inside the easement, but I don't think you can do that anyway. So it's pretty much remove it or remodel it or expand it.
The spirit and intent behind the zoning requirement would be observed and substantial justice would be done by granting the variance. For the reasons really noted above, it's not substantial.
Right.
It fits in with their adjoining properties. Properties to the rear are farther away, wouldn't affect them.
Yeah, it only has an impact on two properties, one on the right and on the left for, I don't know what the north-south is, but And like we have said, there's no one here to testify either for or against this application. So apparently there's little or no impact. I have to assume there's little or no impact.
All right, any other discussion?
Do you want to make a motion?
Right, I will make a motion then.
I'll second it.
Hold on, we gotta make a
Wait,
motion.
so it's
We gotta make a motion.
Exhibits A through
Thank you very
D.
much.
I thought that was the motion.
No, I gotta read them, I gotta read it. A through D, right, there was no additional,
Yeah.
Documents, right, A through D?
The
Okay.
Staff had a suggestion.
A through D were the only exhibits.
okay. All right, so as well as the board's, no, wait. I move to incorporate exhibits A through D, as well as the board's findings pertaining to the review of section 307.06 of the Genoa Township zoning resolution into evidence and to approve the requested variance from section 806.07 of the Genoa Township zoning resolution for BZA 2025-03, application received February 18th, 2025, to allow for, in addition to encroach 10 feet into the required 50-foot rear setback on property known as Lot 1827 in Highland Lakes, 6387 Lake Trail Drive, Zone Suburban Residential. This motion is based on the following findings of fact pursuant to section 307.04 of the Genoa Township zoning resolution, that such variance or modification will not be contrary to the public interest because it, if it's in with the neighborhood, it is not substantial, and will not affect the neighbors or government services.
Any adjoining neighbor already has.
That
a
exists
fixture.
even further back, yeah.
Yes,
for-
yes,
Yep.
yes.
That owing to special conditions, a literal enforcement of the zoning resolution will result in an unnecessary hardship because they would have a garage that is not as useful or would have to take it down and make it compliant, which could be quite substantial. That the approval of such variance or modification thereof is consistent with the spirit of the zoning resolution and substantial justice shall be done thereby because it is actually a pretty insubstantial improvement to get more use out of their garage. Approval of the subject variance is subject to the owner's agreement to the following conditions. All required permits, zoning, or otherwise be obtained. Pursuant to section 307.11 of the Genoa Township zoning resolution, the approved variance shall lapse, expire, and be null and void ab initio if required zoning permits are not obtained within 1 year of this motion of approval. Extensions to this variance may be requested pursuant to sections 307.11.A and B of the Genoa Township zoning resolution as may be amended. The Board of Zoning Appeals does grant the Genoa Township zoning inspector authority to extend this variance at their discretion, subject to the deadlines established within section 307.11.A of the Genoa Township zoning resolution as may be amended, and that this variance only applies to the garage extension of 10 feet. Garage extension.
Okay.
To the, yes, it only applies to the changes in this application.
Okay,
Okay,
all right.
I think I got that.
Any discussion? Oh, any, do I hear a second, Mark?
I'll second it now that I know what the motion sounds like.
Hear it, don't hear it. Okay. Any discussion, any further discussion? Any questions, further questions for the applicant? No?
No.
Then I guess we'll call a vote. Mr. Campanella?
Yes.
Mr. Christian?
Yes.
Mr. Phillips?
Yes.
Miss Yu?
Yes,
Chair votes yes. Motion carries and your variance is approved.
Congratulations. Good luck with your
Yeah,
with your
good
effort
luck.
there.
All right. And at 8:05, and the hearing is closed at 8:05. And,
Sorry for jumping the gun, Teresa. For some reason, I thought reading those rules was part of the motion.
yeah, I was new once. It's all right. I can't remember when it was, but I was. So.
It's a big tract there.
Yeah,
You got a moose back there?
there are a lot of deer that love
this is,
I have a herd that comes through my property all the time. It's crazy.
all right, let's start the next and final public hearing for tonight at 8:07. And I will read the legal notice in the record. And before I do that, everyone that wishes to testify in this matter, please stand and raise your right hand. You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. Be seated. And I will read the application into the record. Kyle and Amanda Arnold requesting approval of a variance to construct an addition that encroaches into the rear setback at 5759 Ridgewood Avenue, Westerville, Ohio 43082, currently zoned Planned Residential District, PRD, BZA case 2025-04. The legal notice for this hearing was printed and published on March 1st, 2025 in the Delaware Gazette and posted at the Genoa Township Hall on February 21st, 2025. An attempt to mail notice of this hearing to property owners contiguous to and across the street from the subject property was also made. The following exhibits are marked, are received as Exhibit A, the legal notice, Exhibit B, the sign-in sheet, Exhibit C, the application, and Exhibit D, the staff report dated March 11th, 2025. And at this time, we will start with Mr. Schaefer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I am going to go a little bit more into the history on this one because it's germane and I think relevant to the case before you. So the zoning permit for this home was issued in February of '97. The zoning permit was subsequently revised in July of '97 to add a 14-foot deck. The builder, Roman Alien Hughes, was granted a variance for the decks to encroach into the rear setback. That was BZA case number 97-05. Since this approval, the zoning resolution has obviously been amended numerous times and has since been updated to allow decks and patios to encroach 10 feet into the rear setback. So if that had been applied for today, they wouldn't have even needed that variance. That said, we also have variance application for BZA case number 2022-05, which some of you may remember, requesting a reduction to the required 30-foot rear setback for an addition to cover the existing deck with a roof. That was received back in July of '22. The requested variance was approved by the BZA in August of '22. It's August 23rd, 2022 to be specific. Staff was contacted by Mr. Martin to ask if the variance approval for BZA 2022-05 would allow for another addition on the opposite rear corner of the existing residence to encroach to the 20-foot setback. That was approved back in 2022. I analyzed the motion that was made that evening in the case, and my determination was I felt like it wasn't 100% clear, but it was gray enough in terms of whether or not I felt like the board's intention that night was to grant the variance specific to only that project that evening. I felt like even though you didn't come out and expressly say that, there was enough verbiage in the motion that sort of implied it. So I didn't feel comfortable issuing a zoning permit for this current project under the variance that had been approved in '22.
For the record, you were exactly correct, because it was my intention as a voting member that it was only for that project.
And that's how I read it, and that I try to, get in your heads a little bit that that's what I assumed you probably intended and were thinking to do. And so, I don't know, if nothing else, out of an abundance of caution, I told the applicant, I think you probably would need to go back in front of the BZA to make this clean, assuming it would get approved. So that's why they're here before you this evening. So the application specifically for BZA 2025-04 is requesting a 14-foot reduction to the 30-foot rear yard setback. We received the application on February 19th. The variance is to allow for the construction of the new addition in the rear yard of the property. We've already talked about so the section they're seeking relief from specifically is section 90901B, the minimum yard setback requirements for PRD. Also, the required 30-foot setback for Highland Lakes North is defined in the development plan text of ZC 9302. Rear yard setback shall be a minimum of 30 feet. However, along Worthington Road, the rear yard setback shall be 50 feet. Also, I'll note that in the zoning code, as you're well aware, there is a provision that allows for homeowners within planned developments to come and ask for variances to a lot within a PRD, as long as the variance request is only relevant to a singular property. Otherwise, if they were trying to affect multiple properties, then that'd be a plan amendment going in front of the zoning commission. However, this is just for a singular property, so it's the variance process. Application details, the requested setback variance is for the construction of the proposed addition or construction is 16 feet, 9 inches by 16 feet with an attached 8-foot by 4-foot floating deck. The applicant attached 3 signed letters from their adjacent neighbors indicating support of the required variance that I believe was in the materials you received. Staff comments, the proposed addition would encroach into the rear yard setback 4 feet more than the 10-foot encroachment approved by the covered deck addition by BZA 2022-05. And a copy of the applicant's variance was provided to police, fire, and maintenance departments. The fire marshal responded that he had no comments or concerns. Police and maintenance, as is typical, did not provide any responses. And the chair already noted the advertising dates. We posted the sign on the property on March 5th. Paul, are you aware of any feedback or comments we've received prior to the meeting on this one?
We did not receive any comments on this application.
And just so you know, I didn't recite the Duncan Middlefield standards in the memo. We're revising how we do the memos, because most of the time we were just regurgitating and copying and pasting what was already in the application, which started to seem unnecessary. So we're not going to copy and paste them in the memo unless we feel, we're really not going to mention them unless we feel like there's something we need to respond to. But otherwise, we're going to let the application speak to itself in terms of how the applicant has responded to those
Fair
items.
enough.
So with that, Mr. Chairman, I turn the floor back over to you.
Okay, let's hear from the applicant.
Could I comment, Mr.
Oh,
Schaefer, first?
Absolutely.
Mr. Schaefer, I just want
Yes,
to
sir.
kind of confirm what you said and reinforce what you said with respect to actions taken by the board. I'm sort of a strict constructionist. I see the words in front of me and I interpret the words in trying to make my decisions. I never intend for a variance to extend beyond what is requested in that specific variance. And I think most board members feel that way. So again, I agree. We're just reinforcing what you say, but I think that's typically what I've seen of this board over the years.
Yeah, and we understand that that's always on our understanding too, but that's why we always make the recommendation on the condition that you just make it abundantly clear, just so if I'm not sitting here or a judge is looking over it, there's absolutely just no question as to what your intent was.
No, and I think that's fair, and I think it's not a bad idea to be more clearly defined, because in cases like this, when they come back, there is the potential, and I understand exactly where you're coming from. A lot of what we do here is just essentially what we've done over the years, which didn't make it right, but it's what we did, so.
Joe, just to confirm, there have been 2 variances granted for this property over the years, 2 prior variances?
2
granted?
prior variances, the first one from 97, if it was today, would not have been needed because the code's changed, but yes, technically speaking, there's been 2 variances granted for this property already.
Thank you.
Anything else, Mr. Phillips?
No, nothing
No?
further.
Okay, let's hear
Thank
from
you,
the
Mr. Chairman.
Speaking into a mic, so bear
Yep,
with
you're
me.
good.
Well, first off, thank you for your time. So if you would have asked me 5 years ago, would I be sitting in front of you again, asking for another variance? I would say no, because,
You didn't?
no, I thought we'd be further out in Genoa Township, somewhere with land, but turns out we've grown roots over the past 8 years in our neighborhood. We love it. We've got a lot of friends. Kids are, in school sports. So, and with the financial climate and current interest rate on my home, we're just not moving. So then my wife and I sat and talked about an addition and getting a little bit more space. And, we kind of embarked on this journey. So similar to our last project, everything that we've done to our home, we take pride in. We think we have one of the nicest looking houses on the street. And we just would like a little bit more space for our family to enjoy as we, grow deeper roots into the community. So we are trying to build a 3-story addition that would allow more finished basement area, larger master bedroom on the second or main level, and then an additional bedroom and bathroom on the third level, or the second level, I guess. You know, we back up to the woods, so there's nobody that is directly behind us that would be negatively impacted. As a matter of fact, the nature walk behind our property, we do get a lot of compliments on what we've already done to the property. It actually has probably the biggest impact on the neighbor on the east, Troy and Ashley Golding, who we're very good friends with. We hang out, have dinner together, and we do have their support, as well as the western neighbors, Brittany and Jared Webb, and then our neighbors across the street as well. Trying to think what else. I mean, aesthetically, it's going to be very similar to what is on the home already, which, you know, had been previously approved, like the black windows and the pink color and all of that. So,
And did I see the HOA has already reviewed and approved your plans?
so the HOA, and I don't really understand exactly the why, but they said that they do not, nor they never will, accept setback variances. So they have denied the setback variance portion of it, but they've accepted the aesthetic of it. The reason why I say I don't understand it is because they approved the deck, and that required a setback variance. So I don't love our HOA, and they keep switching management companies, and it's kind of a disaster. They can't even get the electric on the entrance of our neighborhood working for 2 years now. So not to badmouth them, but
It is
I
what
was
it is.
I was a little flustered with their response this time.
Okay.
But in full disclosure, they did say that it was approved, but
The
they would
aesthetics
not.
are approved, but
Yeah,
not
they
the-
wouldn't approve the setback variance.
Okay,
So,
that's fine.
yeah.
Again, point of information.
Yeah.
That's really all.
Does that mean they rejected your application then? I'm not clear.
They accepted it with stipulations, I think is the exact terminology. I just got it back, actually yesterday.
So they accepted it so long as you build within the setback?
Correct.
You don't encroach?
Correct. But again, not to beat a dead horse, but like, I already have a setback variance that was approved for the roof over the deck. So that's where I'm extremely confused on why they're saying they won't and have not approved before. So,
Okay,
not exactly sure.
so just so I'm clear, I'm looking, this is an extremely ambitious plan.
It
But You
is.
already know that.
Yes, yes.
When I see the picture, you're basically gonna bring the middle out and build 3 levels.
So it's actually gonna replicate, kind of, think of that deck.
Yeah.
So it's almost, if you were looking down on the home,
Right. Oh,
think of a
okay.
horseshoe almost.
Okay.
So it would actually be another extension similar to the deck, 4 feet longer though. And,
This one,
yeah,
yeah, okay,
And-
that's what I thought.
yeah, and where the high ground kind of rolls up on the left side
Yep.
of the home, where the
Yep.
addition, where we're proposing the addition is, that's like a water feature that wraps around the side of the house. So yes, that would be dug out to be a continuation of our walkout basement. So I know, I
Probably
probably
hard to
shouldn't.
tell in this.
Yeah,
You
it's,
picked a snow day.
Yeah, I've been using this.
this picture might be a little bit better. I don't know if you have it.
This one, okay. Oh, yeah.
So if you can envision a similar structure coming
Yeah.
off this side with windows and, you know, lots of natural light on all 3 levels.
Okay, got it.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask a question?
Sure?
How many square feet do you add total for this project?
900-ish. All 3 levels would be included in that figure.
And if I recall, the encroachment is like 4 feet?
It's
Beyond
4 feet in addition to the original 10 feet.
That's,
It's 14
Into
into
the
the
30.
50.
Yeah.
30.
So
it's just an incremental one on
it's
top of it.
40.
Okay,
Certainly substantial,
yeah.
so.
Liberal arts.
And you said there's nothing behind you, is that correct?
Just woods. I mean, there is, so
Yeah, I
Willow
think it's
Bend,
kinda- yeah, there you
if
go.
you zoom out, there are houses across the woods, but nothing
But not-
directly.
there's-
Yeah.
it's not-
Yeah, and
You're
then
not
those
abutting a
woods aren't
property, right.
buildable or anything.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, the neighbors, the Goldings, are the ones that it's really gonna impact the most. And our garage goes out towards the side, towards their yard. So it's not that side encroachment, but it's the back. You know, I was trying to think, because you guys mentioned, like, with the previous cases, does it impede the neighbor's view or sunlight or things of that nature? There's heavy trees along the right side of my property. It is their kitchen. Will they be able to see it? Yes, absolutely. You know, I don't think that it would hinder their ability to see the woods from that angle.
Do we have a letter of approval from that neighborhood?
We do,
Yep.
yeah.
That's fine by me.
Yeah, I mean, the Goldings and Webbs, they've been great. They support it. They know that they're gonna get invited over and we're gonna hang out. We all have young kids. We all play outside and have a lot of fun together, so. But to your point, it's a very large project.
What's in the far right-hand corner of your lot?
That is a playground set that will be,
Pardon?
playground set, yeah. And I was actually looking at the same view. It's kind of interesting because like the Goldings actually have a patio that is further out, which I never noticed. But yeah, that play set will be gone.
This is the patio you're talking about?
Yeah,
And they don't have anything over it, it's just concrete or whatever.
right. Yep.
Well, somebody want to go through Duncan versus Middlefield? Anyone? Huh? Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, did I not? Okay,
Because
you're
there's
right.
nobody else here.
No, you're right. When you're right, you're right. At this time, I will open up to public comment. Is there anyone, member of the public, that would like to speak regarding this application? Since there is no one else in the room besides staff, the applicant, and the board, I will assume there is no one. So we will close public comment at this time. And would anyone like to go through Duncan versus Middlefield? Anybody at all?
I can do it, Mark.
Thank you, Mark Phillips. Mr. Phillips?
I'll step up next time, I promise.
Oh, you'll get your chance.
I will. Not my first one.
The board reviewed section 307.06 of the zoning resolution, reflecting Duncan versus Middlefield, as it pertains to the area variance requested from section 909.01B and the Highland Lakes North Final Development Plan to allow for an addition to encroach into the rear setback in a planned residential zoning district as follows. First, the property in question would yield a reasonable return, and there can be beneficial use of the property without the variance. There's already beneficial use of the property, and that could be continued if the variance was not granted. The variance is substantial, and again, by my calculation, it's about, well, we're saying 14 feet into the 30-foot rear setback. I calculate that at approximately 45%. So yes, that is substantial. The essential character of the neighborhood would not be substantially altered, and the adjoining properties would not suffer a substantial detriment as a result of the variance. First, they would not be substantially altered. It's the applicant's backyard, and there would be very few people, if any, that could see it and be in some way harmed by it. Certainly the neighbor to the left and to the neighbor to the right would be most likely, and they both submitted letters approving the variance. Okay, did that one. Next, the variance would not adversely affect the delivery of governmental services. Both fire and police were notified, fire responded and said they had no objections. The property owner did purchase the property with knowledge of the zoning restriction You probably heard us say earlier and at previous hearings that you're deemed to have actual knowledge of the zoning restrictions at the time you buy property. Next, property owner's predicament cannot be feasibly obviated through a method other than a variance. In theory, you could build the new structure narrower and longer across there, but it doesn't accomplish the purpose that you have to expand 3 specific areas or rooms, one on each level. Next, the spirit and intent behind zoning requirements would be observed and substantial justice would be done by granting the variance. Again, the negative of that is that no one's going to be hindered or in any way other adversely affected by the granting of the variance. So in fact, substantial justice is being done. And it accomplishes what you'd like to accomplish with the construction to the home. With that said, I'll move to incorporate Exhibits A through D as the board's findings pertaining to the review of Section 30706 of the Genoa Township zoning resolution. Admit those into evidence and to approve the requested variance from Section 909.01B of the Genoa Township zoning resolution and the Highland Lakes North Final Development Plan for BZA case number 2025-04. Application received February 19, 2025, to allow for an addition to encroach 14 feet into the required 30-foot rear setback on property known as lot number 2923 in Highland Lakes North, 5757 Ridgewood Avenue, Westerville, Ohio, 43082, zoned planned residential. This motion is based on the following findings of fact pursuant to Section 307.04 of the Genoa Township zoning resolution. That such variance or modification will not be contrary to the public interest because, once again, there are few, if any, people that will be hindered by this construction. We have no objections from fire and police, and we have 3 neighbors who submitted letters in support of the addition. Owing to special conditions, a literal enforcement of this zoning resolution would result in an unnecessary hardship because I will incorporate the arguments I just made in the first point, but secondly, the undue hardship to the applicant would be that he couldn't construct or go forward with the enlargements that he'd like to see on the property. That's certainly an undue hardship. That the approval of such variance or modification thereof is consistent with the spirit of the zoning resolution and substantial justice shall be done thereby because although the resolution does set setbacks, it also allows for an applicant to make application to vary those setbacks. So in this case, substantial justice is done by allowing you to improve your home and hopefully the property value of your home, which certainly is something that's important to other residents in Genoa Township, that our properties are still increasing in value. Okay. Approval of subject variance is subject to the owner's agreement to the following conditions. All required permits, zoning or otherwise, be obtained. Number 2, pursuant to Section 307.11 of the Genoa Township zoning resolution, the approved variance will lapse, expire, and be null and void ab initio if required zoning permits are not obtained within 1 year of this motion of approval. Number 3, extensions to this variance may be requested pursuant to Section 307.11A and B of the Genoa Township zoning resolution as may be amended. Number 4, the Board of Zoning Appeals does grant the Genoa Township zoning inspector authority to extend this variance at their discretion, subject to the deadlines established within Section 307.11A of the Genoa Township zoning resolution as may be amended. And number 5, that this variance, when granted, will only apply to the specific size, shape, and conditions of the structure being proposed to the board tonight. That's it. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you.
Okay, discussion?
No.
Anything?
I see why we should approve the variance. It makes sense to me to move forward with it and allow the applicant to see what he can do with his house.
I think this type of investment is something that we're gonna see a lot of, given the current, broader economic conditions. And I think it's great to see people investing in our township.
I think you're right. Okay, are you ready to call the vote?
Yes.
Okay. Roll call, Mr. Campanella,
Yes.
Mr. Christian,
Yes.
Mr. Phillips,
Yes?
Ms. Yu.
Yes.
Chair votes yes. The application is approved. Thank you, sir.
Good luck.
Enjoy your,
Thank you very much.
enjoy your three-year
Appreciate it.
construction project.
It's gonna be a tough one.
It is. And this hearing is closed at 8:36. We're not quite finished yet, but yet there's more, as my trainer tells me. Okay, we have Jared here tonight who will be leaving us, and I thank you for your service, sir. It's appreciated. I have really enjoyed getting to know you, and good luck. I know you've got other things out there that you're looking at, so please. And I want to thank Mr. DeRose, who is not here tonight, for his service with us. I enjoyed getting to know him as well, and I thought he was a very valuable member of this committee.
Can I
Mr.
make a comment?
Yes, absolutely.
I would agree with you. Certainly, I think Jared has been a great addition
He
to
has.
the board. I've enjoyed serving with you, too. Wish you the best of luck moving forward.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, of course, Paul Hansen, as we all know, has resigned from the board and is being replaced. And I want to thank Paul, even though we haven't seen him, because I understand there's some medical issues. Thank him for his service as well. And I don't want to forget Susan Dorsch, who recently retired. She wasn't at our last meeting, but I do want to thank her for her many years of service with the township and to this committee.
I did run into Susan.
I did too.
She said you'd run into her. I ran into her at church on Sunday.
Ah,
She appears to be very, very relaxed.
yes. She,
Imagine a world, yeah.
all she did is, I'd been contemplating using the exit sign at my job, and all she did was accelerate it. So I'm thinking, yep, maybe it is time. But I thank them all for their service to this board and to the township. Next month, we will have 2 new members or 3? 3 new members.
You'll have 3 new,
I don't know,
three.
I'll lose count.
It'll be 3.
But, just to inform staff, the expectation of the current chair, not necessarily the future chair, is that we will have all board members here, including alternates, and that we will have somebody from the county prosecutor's office. I understand Mr. Fowler probably won't be available, but a representative that can walk everyone through the rules that Mr. Fowler has done for us in the last 3 years. So,
Yeah, I've been in contact with the prosecutor's office. I'll let them know that you're interested in having them next month. I
I'm a
can't
little
guarantee
more
they'll
than
be available.
interested. Yeah.
But I'll tell them that's been the request, and I'll see what they
Okay.
say to me. So for those of you who may not see my email, Mr. Fowler actually got appointed to the position of judge on the Delaware County Municipal Court. So his last day is this week,
Darn
and
him.
he starts next week. So I told him I hope I never have to appear in front of him in that capacity. So, but no, it's well-earned, well-deserved. Mr. Fowler's done a wonderful job.
He's a great guy. I really have enjoyed working
Yeah,
with him.
I'll miss working with them, but I believe we're probably going to get Corey Go, who at the prosecutor's office, unless something changes, it's not our decision, it's Prosecutor Schiffel's
Sure.
ultimate decision. But it sounds like that's who we're going to get, so I'll contact Corey and see if he's available to come to your meeting on the 22nd for that purpose.
Because I think it's extremely important, because we're going to have several new people
Mhm.
that they understand. I kind of wish they'd been here, all of them tonight, but
I can tell, well, Gail Guest was here at the beginning. She may have just not stayed till the entirety. I met with another one actually right before this meeting at 6. He told me he was gonna watch the meeting recording on YouTube to get a feel for things. And I've also spoken by phone to the other member, and I know he's looking at, we do an onboard, as some of you probably recall, we do an onboarding packet
Yeah, I
that we give
realize
them. So I know he's digging into that, and he's been in touch with me with his questions on that, and he's aware of the YouTube as well, so.
Mark, is your intent to do a run-through before the board meets, or have them just sit, when would the instruction to them
Well,
take place?
we know of at least one case,
You've got the continued hearing,
potentially one case,
yeah, whether or not they ask for another continuance remains to be seen.
right?
The application
Regardless-
deadline is until the 25th, so we won't know until the 25th.
Right,
if you have
and
any other
regardless of
business.
whether we have other cases or not, my intention, and we can discuss if you'd like, my intention is to dispose of the cases as necessary rather than have the public sit through that because they typically don't want to. And then do it afterwards, or we could meet earlier and do that. My preference would be to do it afterwards.
I will note that of the 3 members, 2 are alternates, so they may not necessarily be sitting right away.
I realize that.
And then the third, Mr. Wilcoxon, actually, he's employed by the city of Columbus. He's actually on their sort of zoning staff, and he actually attends Columbus BZA meetings doing what I do here. So, not to say there won't be an adjustment period, obviously Columbus and Genoa are not exactly the same, but he's familiar with, the generalities of sort of how this all works.
I would say thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure and an honor. I am glad that I got to participate and be a part of the community and helping shape the way that it moves forward into the future. If I could give a piece of advice to anybody who might catch this on YouTube or wherever it may be, it is to participate in the world around you. Be a part of a board, be a member of your community, and help build your community. Otherwise, people will be making your decisions for you your entire life.
Yeah.
You won't get a say, you won't get a voice. Show up and be a part of the world around you so that you can help shape it into something that you can be proud of. Otherwise, you will have nothing. So thank you all for having me. I will always be here to help in any way I can, anyone in this entire region. I try to be a friend to everybody, and I try to do the right thing. So thank you for having me, and I look forward to being a part of this community sometime in the future.
Well said, and thank you.
Good,
Yeah.
thank you.
Your comments have always been welcome.
Yes, absolutely. It has been an absolute pleasure to get to know you. So, on that note, yeah. Oh, right, we have a new staff member to welcome as well. And I'm gonna screw your name up. I promise you, all year, I will screw your name up. We have Rafid, is that right?
Rafiq.
Okay.
Don't worry, Rafiq. It took a while to learn mine, too.
Yeah, no. Well, here, I shouldn't tell you this on the record, but I will tell you that Susan Dorch, who I've known for 15 years, she calls me one day about a year ago, and she says, every meeting you mispronounce my name. And I'm like, I know her husband, I know her, I've known them both for years, and sure enough, I got to thinking about it, I'm like, you're right. So, don't feel like I don't love you, I do. It's nothing personal. It's just, as my wife will tell you, I'm not particularly bright. So, on that note, we will entertain a motion to adjourn. Mr. Phillips?
Second.
Second by Mr. Christian. All in favor?
Aye.
Any
Official act.
opposed? We are adjourned.